Show, your daily pit stop for business goodness with our daily 10-minute business lessons for the real world. I'm your host, your coach, your teacher, Omar Zenhom. I'm also the co-founder of the $100 MBA, a complete business training and community online. Check us out at 100mba.net. Before I get into today's lesson, I want to give a quick shout out to every single listener. You guys are absolutely amazing. Recently, our show has grown tremendously. We have climbed past 50,000 downloads every single day. And at the moment I'm recording this, we have surpassed 23 million downloads. That's absolutely amazing. I just wanted to take a moment at the start of today's episode to thank you, the listener who's listening right now, for subscribing to the $100 MBA show. Thank you so much for allowing us to grow the way we are and deliver quality lessons to you every single day. So what's today's lesson? Today is a must-read episode. In our must-read episodes, I share with you a book that I've read that has impacted me as an entrepreneur. I share with you its insights, its takeaways, and why you should read it too. Today's must-read is The Brain Audit by Sean D'Souza. I recently was introduced to Sean D'Souza via email by a mutual friend, Adam Franklin, who is a former guest teacher here on the show. And I got to know that Sean runs a site called psychotactics.com out of New Zealand. And he has a very popular book called The Brain Audit. So I checked it out and I got it on my Kindle and started reading it. And thought, wow, this is a good book and definitely a great book for those who want to understand the psychology of a customer. Why do they buy and why do they don't? This book is a sales, a marketing, a customer experience book, all wrapped into one. I can't wait to get into this one, guys, so let's get down to business. Today's episode of the $100 MBA show is sponsored by SumoMe. SumoMe is a suite of apps that you can install right on your website that allow you to easily collect email addresses, grow your email list, increase your website traffic, and allow social sharing to be super easy for your visitors. And guys, we've been using SumoMe for the past 2 years, and I can't speak highly enough about it. It's amazing. Best of all, you can get this software for free forever. Just go to this special link, 100mba.net/SumoMe. Again, that's 100mba.net/SumoMe. How does the human brain go through decision making? That's what this book goes through. How does a customer on your website make the decision to either buy, bookmark your site, or never come back? I mean, do you ever wonder about what your customer's going through, what they're thinking when they're on your website? Well, Sean D'Souza in this book tells you don't leave this thought process to chance. Don't let the customer walk away. In fact, your customers don't want to walk away. They want their problems solved. But for some reason, if they walk away, they probably felt like you don't have the solution. And like the book says, the brain audit isn't about persuasion or mind tricks. Instead, it shows you the information that your customers need in order for them to make a decision. You have to give this information. You have to supply this information. You got to allow them to make the right decision. But they can't make the decision without the right stuff in front of them and in the right sequence. And that's the first thing I want to share with you. The brain audit shares this great philosophy of presenting certain things in a certain sequence to your customers. Now, Sean offers a lot of analogies in this book that are great images, great thoughts, great metaphors. The one that this book is most known for is the 8 bags on a conveyor belt. He starts the book by telling you that, I want you to imagine you're at the airport and you have 8 checked pieces of luggage, and you're waiting at the conveyor belt for your bags. When would you leave that airport? After getting 1 bag, getting 2 bags? I know it sounds like a silly question. You're kind of like, of course, I'm going to wait until I get all my bags, all 8 of my bags. So Sean wants to put this visual in your mind, and he wants to correlate the fact that leaving the airport is like checking out on your website, making a purchase. No one's going to make a purchase until they receive all 8 of these bags. What are these bags? These are principles or pieces of information that your customer needs to experience. I'm going to quickly go through these 8, but obviously Sean goes through a lot of detail in this book that I highly recommend you go into. This is a very simple read, and when I say simple, I don't mean like it's for dummies or something. I mean that it's actually broken down in a great way. Sean's a good teacher. So if you're a beginner or you're just learning how to sell or write copy, this book is a lifesaver. So quickly, what are those 8 bags? What are the 8 things that the customer has to experience? Number one, the problem. You have to start with the problem in mind. What problem is your product solving? And there's a big reason why you start with the problem. He goes through it in detail, but really quickly, our minds are programmed to perk up, to pay attention to issues, to problems. When there's a problem in front of us, we want to solve it. We want to be able to address it. It gets our attention. And he gives some really great analogies and stories about that. But immediately after you give the problem, you have to offer a solution. Bag number 2. And he talks about how to give a simple explanation of the solution, which is the opposite of the problem, the flip side of the problem. He then goes into bag number 3, the target profile. And there's a difference between a target audience and a target profile. He goes into detail about what that means and how exactly to create your own target profile for your business. Bag number 4, the trigger. A trigger is simply the ability of a message to stand out and get their attention. A trigger has to be effective, has to be clear. A trigger helps them take action. Number 5, the objections. The objections or common objections your customer might have. And he talks about how objections can be split up into 3 main categories: perceptions, past experiences, and need to know. You can tell already that this book is filled with amazing information that you need to have in order to have a great sales process. Number 6, or bag number 6, the testimonial. It's not enough for you to say you're awesome, that this is a great product. You have to get testimonials from other people. And he actually addresses the fact that a lot of people are skeptical about testimonials. And even if they don't say it out loud, they view testimonials as maybe one-sided. And he has a remedy for that, something called reverse testimonial, which actually addresses the doubts the customer had before they bought the product. And it balances out the testimonial. Number 7, the risk reversal. You got to lower the feeling of risk when people are making a purchase. Whether that's a trial, a guarantee, whatever you offer, the customer has to feel like, hey, this is not a big deal if I buy this. I can always go back if I'm not happy. I can always get my money back, or, no harm, no foul. And lastly, the uniqueness. You have to have uniqueness in your product. And he talks about how this is a tough job. This is not easy. And he gives this great insight I have to share. And he says, instead of finding your uniqueness, it's easier or more efficient to create your uniqueness. To create your uniqueness, all you have to do is make a wish for your customers. If there's one thing you'd wish to improve in their life, what would that one thing be? And he emphasizes one thing. Stop trying to give a million things. You need to focus on one thing. And he reiterates this throughout the book about focusing in on one thing, whether that's one problem or one targeted audience member. You get the point. Overall, I thought the Brain Audit was well put together. He actually puts some great summaries at the end of each chapter to summarize what you've learned. I would definitely take some notes when you're reading this book, because you may find those notes handy every time you write a sales letter, you write an email, you're making a sales page, whatever it is. These 8 little steps you got to go through are very important to make sure your customer gets the experience they need in order to buy. If they don't buy, in my opinion, it's because they're not a good match. But you got to do everything in your power to make sure they have the information to make that decision. Most of us, we don't get that far. We don't give them these 8 things, and therefore we lose the sale. Guys, I got more on today's must-read, but before that, let me give love to today's sponsor, Braintree. You remember the first dollar you made, but now you want to grow to make your millionth, maybe even your billionth. But have you found the right payments partner to grow with you? Braintree lets you accept every way to pay, from PayPal to Apple Pay to credit cards to even Bitcoin and everything in between. And all it takes is one integration, and it doesn't matter what currency your customers are using, because Braintree lets you accept over 130 of them. To learn more about how your company can grow with Braintree, visit BraintreePayments.com/MBA. Again, that's BraintreePayments.com/MBA. I think what I enjoyed the most about the Brain Audit is that it took sales as an exercise and made it more of a science and less of an art. A lot of us, we say, hey, I'm not good at sales. It's not something I'm naturally good at. It's not my style, as if it was some sort of art form or talent. And the Brain Audit says, no, the brain responds in a certain way to certain triggers, to certain words, to certain messages. Your job is to give it the right messages in the right sequence. And the Brain Audit gives it to you. It gives you exactly that formula. Definitely recommend you checking out the Brain Audit. We put a link into today's show notes for the book on Amazon, so you can just, grab it on Amazon. It's a really good book. It's really affordable on Kindle as well. The link to our show notes is 100mba.net/MBA653, Or if you're on your iPhone, just click on the cover art. You'll see a link right there. All the notes will be right below or right behind the cover art on your iPhone. All right, guys, that wraps up today's lesson. I hope you loved it. Guys, don't forget to hit subscribe to get all your episodes automatically on your device. You'll wake up in the morning and you'll find a new, fresh episode right there waiting for you, downloaded, all set to go. All right, guys, before I go, I want to leave you with this. Recently, I've gotten into the habit of picking up books or choosing books based on recommendations from friends. But I also want to recommend that you choose books that are in the areas of things you feel you're weak at or you feel a little bit intimidated with. So if that's sales, if that's marketing, if that's creativity or writing, sometimes we have this sense of anxiety when we read a book or think about reading a book in an area that we're not so great at. But in my experience, when you actually read the book, you start to feel a whole lot better about it. You start to feel like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I can take control of this. Maybe I can do this. Maybe it's just a story I told in my head that I'm not a good writer or whatever. So take that chance. Try that out. Choose your next book in an area you feel less confident in. All right, guys, I'll check you in tomorrow's episode. I'll see you then. Take care.